Hello everybody, welcome back to another video where I talk over a game. And today I wanted to talk about a recent stance taken by Uta Frith, who is one of the most influential psychologists in autism research since about the 70s and 80s. They've been credited as reframing autism as a brain-based condition, are a co-author of the theory of mind hypothesis. She also proposed that autistic cognition often involves a strong attention to detail and a difficulty integrating the big picture, and helped expand recognition of autism and Asperger's, popularizing the term in the UK, translating early work by Hans Asperger, and contributing to broadening the diagnostic understanding beyond severe cases, which is kind of interesting because recently she's taken a different stance. There are some noises in the background because somebody in my building is using their washer, and that makes an annoying sound in the water pipe, so if you're hearing that, that's what it is. Anyway, so as I was saying, she's recently kind of changed her stance because she is now more skeptical about the autism spectrum, saying that it may have broadened to the point of collapse, meaning that certain people, according to her, do not really fit the criteria anymore. She has concerns about rising diagnostic rates, particularly people who go and have a diagnosis later in life, suggesting that these people may just suffer from some type of social anxiety or exhaustion rather than having autism. She wants to put the emphasis back on the more quote-unquote severe autistic cases, people with clear support needs, and it is proposed by some people that she may be feeling like money that should be going toward catering to support needs of those who need it may now be spread or used on people who may not, who just kind of fit this broader autism spectrum that she does not agree with. And she would argue that people who have been diagnosed in early childhood are the ones who are actually on the spectrum, and people, like I said earlier, later diagnoses may probably just suffer from some type of anxiety, etc. So this kind of paints the picture that people who get a diagnosis, particularly the ones later in life, immediately start taking up support funds, start applying for things, etc., and thereby drawing all of this fund over to them rather than people who need it on a daily basis, etc., whom she clearly sees as autistic rather than the other people that I just described. But the thing is, there's a couple of things that I feel are wrong with that assumption, aside from the fact that it's actually not happening, but okay. The whole early childhood diagnosis thing is not a guarantee that somebody who is not early diagnosed does not have autism. And that is entirely because of the parents. Because, for instance, in my own case, my older brother was definitely on the spectrum. Like, there's no way if he had been put through some type of diagnosis back in the day that he would not have gotten the diagnosis. But my parents just didn't want to put him through that. And not like, oh, I don't want him to suffer, but more like they just didn't want to know. They kind of ignored it and just thought, oh, he's just kind of like that. Let's just ignore it, pretend that everything will go away and go fine as he gets older, which it didn't, spoiler alert. And I imagine that he is not alone in that. I'm pretty sure there are quite a few people with kids who do not want to recognize that their child may have some type of special needs and just kind of brush it off. And then that person grows up and eventually becomes one of those people who seeks a diagnosis later in life. That does not mean that they will immediately start using the resources. That's my second point that I'm coming up to. People who are already in their adult years and then go seek a diagnosis will have had trouble in their past, but they found certain ways to kind of deal with that. And I don't think that they would typically be the people that immediately want to use the funds to cover support needs, because they've somehow managed to get by, and it's not perfect, it's not great, and in some ways it may actually have harmed them, but I don't see them reaching out immediately wanting funds for their support needs. They'll find some way to deal with things on their own way, and I think they really just want to understand themselves and maybe also get some recognition for why things have been so tough on them in the past. I also don't know where she's getting this from, that masking is not a thing. Maybe she just doesn't quite understand what people mean by masking. Basically, her stance sounds kind of like, if you can hold eye contact and you can have some type of conversation with me, you're not on the spectrum. Stop taking the money, basically, even though that's not what's happening. At least I haven't heard of mass demands to meet support needs, particularly of those who were later diagnosed. All I see and read are messages and stories of people who had trouble their entire life with all sorts of different things and didn't know what it was until they discovered that maybe I'm on the spectrum. And then they started to look into that, and they did a lot of research for themselves, because of course they did, because it becomes a special interest. And even now, when they're like diagnosed, some of them, they're still wondering if maybe that isn't the case and they have some type of imposter syndrome. So basically, the people who are late diagnosed are in a position where almost nobody believes them, and even they themselves sometimes don't believe themselves. And then you also have Uta over here saying, well, if you weren't diagnosed as a kid, then probably it's not true, etc. So what are you complaining about? And stop taking the money, by the way. I'm not sure where their stance is coming from, maybe some type of paranoia or something, or maybe they looked at the funding and saw that it was going down or whatever it is, and there may be some reason for that. But I don't think that the late diagnosis crowd, some of whom actually never actually get a diagnosis, I said actually twice, and don't use any of those funds because they find it very difficult to get a diagnosis in the first place. They just kind of want things explained for themselves, are probably not the issue here. And if it was some random person on the street having this opinion, then that would be kind of like, okay, I guess some people have opinions. I know what I'm thinking, I know what I'm feeling. Have a good day. But it's somebody who is actually involved in the research and who has actually done good things for people in the past or in this same boat. And now we're turning it all around for unknown reasons. Not sure what the effect of that's going to be. But at the end of the day, whether somebody has a label for you in the DSM-5 or not, what you feel and what you experience are real things. And if you can't get a diagnosis, then at least you can continue to research to see exactly what might be up with you, and also continue to make things better for yourself by trying things like, I don't know, fidget toys or noise canceling headphones, earbuds, whatever it is you feel like you need. Knowing where your limits are, that's very important. No researcher can ever take that self-discovery phase away from you, and it's free, so there should be no complaints from anybody. Anyway, that's what I was thinking on the topic of Uta Frith's latest revelations. Hope you found it interesting. I would like to know your opinions and thoughts in the comment section below as well. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and bye-bye for now.